This is Fort Langley stuff. The last one. I want to start off by sincerely apologizing to every member of the Fort Langley community who's here tonight for all the strife and the anguish that's been caused in your community by this development. You shouldn't have had to experience it. I'm sorry you did experience it, but it seems to me that Fort Langley is split right down the middle on this one. And never have I felt the weight of council's quasi-judicial role more on anything than I felt it on this one. I contacted all the remaining members of the 1993 council that passed the original Fort Langley OCP bylaw and the Facade guidelines. And I asked them, when you did this, was your intent to make the guidelines part of the bylaw? And all of them, their majority recollection is quite clear. The guidelines were never intended in 1993 to be part of the bylaw. The guidelines were intended to be just that, guidelines. So I guess in retrospect, from my perspective, I think the guidelines shouldn't pass a comment at all about Coulter Berry 2.0. Antonia Henderson, Harold Punnett, Susanna Han-Lyons, all of these people spoke very passionately to the need for an OCP. And I agree with them. And I think this new OCP should be done sooner rather than later. And it should include the entire community. And hopefully, as was mentioned time and time again, that redoing this OCP will provide Fort Langley with the opportunity to heal, because it's clear that that healing is needed. There were some other key comments made during the public hearing that's influenced my decision quite substantially on this point. Marty Bombardier said, "Can one building destroy a town?" And she said, "No, it can't. One building can't destroy a town." Peter Kravchuk said, "What makes Fort Langley so eclectic and unique is the fact that no two buildings are alike in Fort Langley, and that's what gives it its charm." Graham Facer said, "The key and the deciding question should be, does this building benefit the community?" And Scott Cave said, "Community draws people, not buildings." And in weighing those questions, I went back to the question that Graham Facer posed, and that was, does this building benefit the community? And I think in many respects it does. There was another gentleman at the public hearing that said it was really nice that people like to visit Fort Langley, but really the ones whose voices should be listened to the most are the ones who actually live in Fort Langley, because they're the ones that are going to see this building every single day. So I took his advice and I went back to the list of all the speakers from the public hearing, and I tallied them up. There were 194 people who spoke at that public hearing who lived in Fort Langley proper, not outside Fort Langley, not in near proximity to Fort Langley, but within the boundaries of Fort Langley. 104 of those people, or 54%, spoke in favor of the building. 86, or 44%, spoke opposed to the building. So, and of course, when we look at the petitions were equally divided as well. But I think either way, more people like this building than dislike it. I myself think it's a magnificent building. I think it will be a big part of Fort Langley's history moving forward, as it's going to be the first LEED Gold building in Fort Langley. And because it's the first LEED Gold building, it's going to pave the way for a whole new generation of sustainable development, which is what we need in Langley. And this building will be a new historical marker in the long line of historical markers that live in Fort Langley right now, and that populate Fort Langley right now. I'd like to thank the developer for being such an atypical developer. I cannot think of another developer who has bent over to the extent that this gentleman has bent over in order to meet the needs of the community, to answer the community's question. He didn't redesign the building once. I mean, there's basically been 3 different redesigns on this building. And I think that Coulter Berry 2.1 will fit in very well because it is 3 feet shorter than the 2.0. And I really wish I didn't have to split the baby like this, but the community is so split, I don't think we have a choice. So my preference is, and I will be putting forward a motion on this at the end of the meeting, I'm going to support Coulter Berry 2.1. I'm also going to ask for an immediate moratorium on any more 3-story developments in Fort Langley until the Fort Langley OCP has been redone with full participation from the community. And as part of that participation, I hope that the community will seriously consider incorporating the facade guidelines into the new OCP.
Thank you. Councillor Davis.